Welcome to WP-Tonic, episode 153. Today we're looking at a 2016 year in review for WordPress and for our podcast. Jonathan, want to introduce yourself, my beloved co-host?
You're still thrown by us not having a guest, aren't you, John?
I am way thrown. I don't know what to do with myself if we don't have a guest.
I'm not going to tell you, John. No, he's a little bit thrown, folks. I'm the founder of WP-Tonic, and we're a maintenance service company that supports online businesses, bloggers, food bloggers, and also we've got another side where we support agencies, graphic designers looking for a partner around making themes and plugins.
Very good. And I'm John Locke. I run my own small studio as well, Lockdown Design. And I help people with their blue collar industry sites, specifically with local SEO or WooCommerce integration.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? Why do you say blue collar?
Why do I say blue collar? Because yeah, it just seems like a lot of the people that I pick up, like for my own clients, they're blue collar industries, you know.
They're the ones making the money.
Yeah, for real. So yeah, I just say blue collar. I need to. I mean, definitely. I will say this. This is one thing we're going to talk about, like in 2017, for sure. But I need to niche that down further as well, and I think it's just because I, have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and
it's our end of show episode, folks. So I'll be the teasing man. So are you going to change it to green collar?
Like, yeah, I'm making the green. No, I need to kind of pick like one or two.
I've thrown everything into it. Let's get back onto the subject. I apologize.
Yeah.
John.
So definitely, no, that brings up a good point. The state of WordPress in 2016. Let's talk about like that first. A lot of things like happened in 2016 with WordPress. They introduced the WP term object. That's kind of geek speak, but if you're a programmer, you'll kind of follow like that. They cleaned up some bugs, some long-standing bugs that were in WordPress. It used to be a bug where you couldn't have the same slug for a category and a post, and they finally
that was painful, wasn't it?
That was like a long-standing one that they finally took care of.
That was really painful, wasn't it? I've had that. And I thought to myself, oh dear.
Yeah. No, but that was a big one. I think probably
I wouldn't say a big one, but if you're dealing with it, it seems pretty big, doesn't it? But I agree with you, and it's been it's not headline stuff, but it's been pretty good, really. They've really been on a bug killing feast in 2016, haven't they?
Yeah, they I think we had 3 major releases in 2016, and in this last one, they finally got the REST API endpoints merged into WordPress core, that is the big headline, honestly, of this year of like WordPress development.
I really think it would have, it wouldn't, I don't want to over dramatize things, I don't want to join the Twitter storm, do I, John? But I think if they hadn't managed to do that and they had allowed it, there were rumors, people in the development team publicly said it looked like interest was waning. They were looking at other technologies. I was mostly getting this. I forgot her name. I apologise. She was on the Mac report, wasn't she?
Rachel Baker.
Yeah, sorry, Rachel. I apologise. Fantastic developer and lady. It really, it sounded almost like it wasn't going to happen, and I think that would have been quite sad. But in the end, it was committed. Great, isn't it?
No, I think it's a major thing, and part of it too is because for those that are just getting into WordPress or maybe just kind of work with it but don't understand the nuts and bolts of it, WordPress is kind of it's like the other CMSs like Drupal and Joomla. It's really based on PHP, and it's got a whole mix of other things, you know, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in there. But essentially, it's a PHP templating language. Now, in recent years, they've been like incorporating like more and more JavaScript in it, and specifically, they've been doing experiments with making custom WordPress admin screens with the Calypso project. That's like a big one. But with the REST API, what a lot of that is going to do is basically it's going to enable a lot more of using WordPress as a database for web applications.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know if you agree with it. What the thing was, folks, was that if you went, we both live near the Bay Area. John's a bit closer than me. If you go down to any kind of Bay Area conference in web development and design, it's mobile first, isn't it, John? It's applications, mobile first, and it should be, really, shouldn't it? But then the problem was, getting WordPress to work with a mobile application, and it doesn't fly really, does it, at the present moment? And what, to me, you got all the other things, but a lot of developers in the Bay Area are just totally dismissing WordPress for a couple other reasons as well. But a big thing was it was very, very difficult to build a decent application and get it to communicate with a WordPress database, wasn't it?
Yeah, and because basically you only had limited options to make that. What the REST API is going to enable is people can use all sorts of languages to tap into the database and pull that information out. Or the biggest thing what I think that it's going to do is going to attract like a more diverse set of developers to WordPress, and they'll be able to work with it. So people who write in different languages can still get use out of WordPress. It won't just be for blogging. I know that in recent years they've started to see like an increasing percentage of WordPress uses where it's used application and not just as a static website. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see where it goes from here.
Yes.
What were some other news stories as far as like WordPress itself that stood out to you this year, Jonathan?
It's gone so quick, isn't it? I really can't believe that. I really don't even know where 2016 has gone. Be quite truthful. I know that's a lot of people say that, but I really honestly don't know where it's gone. I really think, that I think there's been some ups and down stories, isn't there? But I think on the positive side, I actually think what was announced at WordCamp US was very positive, especially the Matt's State of WordPress speech. The decision to go back to the older, shows you, because I've been involved in WordPress since 2009. I did got my first Rocks books, developing plugins. Bought that, and I spent 3 months building a couple of themes by hand, trying to work it all out. So I've been around it, and that was before the menu system was incorporated. There was some kind of plug-in solutions and hacks. But when I got into it, they didn't have these committed release times. It was whenever they felt like it. And they've gone back to that old system, and I think it's a better system. I was listening to Pippin Williams of Applied Filters podcast yesterday, and his latest episode, and he's got certain worries. He wasn't so enthusiastic about it going back, because obviously if you haven't got any predefined date, it can just drift forever, couldn't it? I don't think that's going to be allowed, actually. Matt really pointed at like 3 to 4 areas that they're going to concentrate their attention on. And there were, to my mind, obviously other people are going to disagree with this, and it's all grey, isn't it, John? But I thought he was spot on the areas that really need some attention, some love, and and pushing forward. So I thought it was a great announcement, the right announcement, and I think Matt really kind of answered. There were other parts of the around Calypso, but which I slightly disagreed, and but on the other hand, I also think a lot of developers are worried about they're having to work every day on projects, and then they're expected to become JavaScript experts, aren't they? I think it's going to take longer. This will be like a year, 2 year period, and I think you, as a developer, you'll be able to kind of have enough time to actually brush up your JavaScript skill. Do you think I'm waffling, John, or did you think there's any sense in what I just said?
Well, I think like the web development world in general is moving more toward JavaScript and the various libraries that are being used. WordPress, it's already got like some libraries like included in there. Backbone is one. I know that Calypso, I believe, is written in React. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. Like a lot of our guests this year, they said to go back and learn the basics of JavaScript, just regular vanilla JavaScript, and then you'll have a much better understanding of some of these libraries. And I think that's probably, if people haven't, that's probably a good time to do it, is like right now. Because I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot more customizable admin screens, kind of like similar to what Happy Tables has done with WordPress. So I think that's going to be the
and
future.
option monster, but I don't think they even I'm not even sure their backend system uses WordPress. I need to check that.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head either.
No. What did you think of what I said about the actual announcements about releases?
I think the release schedule going back to, instead of like they were in the past 2 or 3 years, which is a lot of the time that I've been involved with WordPress, it seems like they've had either 3 or 4 release schedules per year. And I think in one of these episodes too, our friend Morten Rand Hendrickson mentioned that it's kind of like a freight train barreling down the track at a 110% of the actual capacity. And I think maybe to step back for a moment and not just do releases just because it's what's on the schedule might be good. And I think another thing that we didn't mention this year is WordPress is actually powering 27% of all websites on the web, which is enormous. That's a huge number. And I think their goal is to get to 50%. And to get that next 22%, I think it's going to be a lot more difficult than it was to get to the 27% that they're at now. So I think, slowing down the release schedule is allowing them to make some of the necessary changes that might need to happen. For example, a lot of people are pointing at, Carl Hancock of Gravity Forms has pointed this out too, that the experience and the way WordPress works on WordPress.com, if you do a hosted solution with them, is very different than if you're doing a self-hosted version of WordPress, like a WordPress.org version. And at some point, it may necessitate some sort of fork or some sort of modularization to where you can take certain elements of it and use them. So I'm not really sure, where they're going to go from here, but I think stepping back on the production schedule and the release schedules is probably giving them time to kind of reflect on where they want to go next.
Yeah, I am in total agreement, and I think nobody can really tell you. I'm not even sure Matt really. Obviously, he's probably got a yearly plan, but these are very big issues, aren't they? I really don't have much experience of WordPress.com. I haven't been there for quite a long time. I really haven't had much experience of other content management systems. I had some websites I developed in the Expression Engine, but that was over 4 years ago. I'm just gobsmacked about how time has gone. And I haven't really got any active experience of Drupal at all. So I think what Matt was saying also, that what he sees the real threat are kind of hosted I couldn't talk there, folks. Solutions like Shopify, Wix. That's where he sees. I think he sees a lot of the threat coming from, really.
Yeah, and I do think that too. And I think in recent years you've seen, you know, a lot of, you know, and they kind of had a duster. Wix had a mobile app that was basically, you know, lifting some of WordPress's code uncredited. There's a whole dust up about the GPL and open source software and giving credit where credit's due. But I do think that's true. I think they're putting a lot of effort into WordPress.com, the hosted version. And I think that's why they acquired WooCommerce a year and a half ago, is to compete with.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but aren't you surprised though? You know, I'm not diminishing the technical difficulty of this at all. But on the other hand, look, you just said it a year and a half ago, and it's still not part of WP. You know, WordPress.com hasn't got a e-commerce solution. Aren't you slightly surprised that it's taken so long?
I don't think I'm like necessarily surprised, because like I said, I think there's a lot of things that are different about doing self-hosted WordPress and WordPress.com. WordPress.com it's a huge multi-site installation. All the sites that are hosted on it, from the VIP on down, it's a huge multi-site network. I think introducing something like a plugin like WooCommerce, which is, you know, a full-blown like web application in itself, but one that's made for the self-hosted version of WordPress. Like if you're going to host your own site, and integrating it into a network-wide, you know, hosted solution, there's going to be some things that need to be translated. So I'm not super surprised. I didn't think it was going to happen like, you know, just like, you know, they buy it and instantly it's like integrated. But you know, I think it'll happen eventually. I think it's when you're dealing with enterprise software, even if it is open source, you know, I think there's a lot of moving very carefully to make sure that things work exactly as they're intended to, and that the experience is a good one.
Yeah, all good comments. Yeah, there's been a few bust ups, but on looking back at them, a lot of it, the Wix thing. What can you say about it? I think in some ways legally, if you don't defend open source, you lose your ability to defend it. So you've got to be a bit more proactive than most people think you should be, maybe. And then you had the thing with oh goodness gracious, about Matt buying that domain name and having it redirected.
Jeff Pearson, yeah, like the thesis guy.
The thesis, that kind of broke up again, didn't it? That reared its head again, that little monster, didn't it?
Well, I think that's been a long-standing feud. I mean, that wasn't really a surprise. I think that's just some bad blood that, you know, just kind of came to a head.
Yeah,
definitely.
And I personally wouldn't have done that, but I don't know all the ins and outs of it, nor do I want to really.
No, probably not. I mean, like I said, I don't have a dog in the fight really, and so you know.
And then you had just before WordPress.com, you had the this flare up with a major sponsor, didn't you?
Yeah, and see, that's something that happened just recently. The WordCamp US Pantheon was the major sponsor of the event. They plunked down like 100 G's to sponsor the event. And there's a hotel. Basically, it was the official hotel of WordCamp, but I guess it wasn't in the contract that they couldn't do a separate deal with the hotel. And so they did that separate deal with the hotel, and they put their branding material and their advertising in the elevator and, all in the hotel. And the WordCamp organizers said you can't do that. Ended up getting escalated. I think some harsh words were exchanged because they ended up being asked to leave. Their money was refunded. They were asked to leave this big event because I think possibly like some things were said. And then I think they met later personally with Matt Mullenweg, and they hashed everything out. But and I that is another thing that I want to bring up that happened this year too. Foundation formed its own separate entity, like nonprofit sort of thing. The WordCamps won't be funded by the foundation. I don't have it in front of me what the actual name of the thing is, but it's like a separate entity that will fund the WordCamps. So
yeah, I don't know how that's going to play out. He was saying that he was doing it for legal protection of the foundation to some extent because, something happened in the WordCamp at the present moment, and that regrettably they got sued. It could actually threaten the foundation and its assets. So, which is totally understandable, when you're living in America being sued.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, but I just thought, because it was a bit strange, wasn't it, for a couple of months before the last few weeks, there wasn't much WordPress news, and then a lot of stuff erupted, didn't
it? Yeah, that's true. It was a few slow news weeks, and
well, more than that, it was a few. I thought it was a couple of months period where there wasn't too much. And before that, we got into on our round table shows. We were having a bit of a doggy session on kind of depressive stories around WordPress, weren't we? We decided as a group to stop, didn't we? We got therapy, didn't we, John?
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue. To kind of start into our year on the podcast. There was a period where a lot of people were being very vocal. People in the WordPress community. I should say it shouldn't be the whole community, but there was a couple, higher profile people that were like, kind of voicing discontent with the community. And I think everybody's situation is a little bit different. But yeah, I was getting a little depressive there for a while. And one thing that I want to bring up too is we asked Matt Medeiros in episode 120. We asked him the question: is it getting harder to make money in WordPress? We've interviewed a lot of people this year that seem to be doing just fine. And a lot of those people are like making WordPress products, like whether it's a plugin or a theme or some sort of service. But I think it really depends on like what you have to offer. Is it like filling a need, and is it different enough from everything else out there that people are willing to pay for it? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
It's very, very difficult, isn't it? Because in some ways, the tools to enable people to get something up. There's I've seen some websites recently that were developed using the GoDaddy tool. That's another thing we didn't really. Well, let's keep on subject, Jonathan, and then I can add the
sure.
Other. And you got those tools. You got Shopify. You got Wix. You got, what's the other one, John?
There's Weebly, Squarespace.
I think Squarespace and Shopify are two of the strongest online tools. There's a bit more. There's definitely more choice out there, but I think a lot of the Squarespace. I have seen quite a lot of agencies kind of PR firms using Squarespace a bit. Um, I think as a kind of semi-professional tool, that's one of the most mature, and I've seen professionals, quasi-professionals using it. On the DIY, it's still Squarespace and Wix, and if you're looking at e-commerce, Shopify. So there are more choice, but on the other hand, to actually get a result, you know, to say now that, you know, almost even in niches, there's so many players. So you really got to have a well worked out website. And if you're serious, and I'm not being disparaging here, if you're just a very, very small business, retail, whatever, a blue collar business, you were never going to spend an enormous amount on your website anyway, even if there were no other choices. I'm waffling now, folks, because I feel it's a very complicated, and I'm getting very contradictory signals from different areas and different people, basically, John.
No, I feel you. I think what you're trying to say is, you know, there are some businesses that will invest in their website, and then there are some businesses that will never invest in their website.
Yeah.
And I think if you have an entrepreneurial spirit and you're willing to adapt what the market is and like what people's needs are, and actually find the needs that aren't being addressed, and find a way to deliver like more value to people, whether that's through a product or a service, then I think that you'll be fine. But just expecting things to stay the same always is never going to be a way to make it in technology. So I think it's a matter of like defining like what you bring to the table, and you know, letting people know, like, you know, how you're different. Yeah. So
yeah, because, you know, I think WordPress has been a little bit squeezed that side. Squeezed. I'm not even sure that terminology is correct. I think, you know, yeah. And then I was talking to a director of a Nevada. I won't get too much detail because I don't want to embarrass the gentleman or cause any controversialism. Which there isn't a word. Sorry, folks. He was head of an IT department of a Nevada agency, put it that way. And I was having a chat with him, and they were using a lot of JavaScript and Cold Fusion, John, for their website.
oh, nice. Retro.
Lovely. And they said that they felt it was more secure to use a system owned by Adobe, and then they use JavaScript a lot, blah, blah, blah. And then I said to him, well, he asked me what I was doing. I said, oh, WordPress. And I said, the two things that really interest me recently, folks, is still WordPress and Facebook, basically. They're the two things that have been taking my interest, really. And I said, oh, well, WordPress. And he said, yeah, we looked at that. It's not secure. And I thought myself, please, you know, I'm still hearing this. So on the corporate side, there's still this thing, it's open source and it's not secure, or Drupal's more stable. You know, these kind of fairy tales to some extent are still very prevalent, aren't they, John?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, we've talked to different security professionals during the year, and we've read numerous articles by people within the WordPress community as well, talking about how when you're controlling like, you know, 25, 26, 27% share of all the websites in the world, you're going to be a bigger target. So when there are sort of hacks and stuff like that, those are going to get more publicity than, you know, something else that's got maybe 2% or 1% of the market. The fact of the matter is any site can be hacked. Site at all in the world can be hacked. It's just a matter of you know, is it going to be hacked? The more popular a site is, the larger chance it's going to be hacked. You know, any CMS, any type of platform can be hacked. It's just a matter of, you know, how much effort do the hackers want to put into it. So
Yeah. Let's go through some of the interview. Let's go through a couple and then we'll go for our break. I'll probably, you know, as you would, I'll probably go for the latest ones. Josh Pollock. I did enjoy that interview, John. Josh is a bit of a character, and I think he's done well to develop Corrada forms. And I just enjoyed the discussion with him. What did you feel about that?
So that was definitely one of our more recent interviews, and he was talking about developing Caldera forms and some other things that he does at Caldera Labs there. You know, one thing that I noticed with him is he's a super smart programmer, but he also knows how to tell a product story. He knows how to market things, and this is a common thread that I've noticed with the people that we've interviewed that have found success. Is not only are they good at building a product and doing the development, but they also know how to tell a product story. And that's one of the big things that I took away from him. Super smart guy though. Super great, good programmer.
Yeah, I just enjoyed the conversation. It was broad, wasn't it? We covered a lot of territory in that discussion, didn't we?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
I think Lee Jackson, the interview of the WP Innovator podcast.
Yep.
And Lee joining us on our round tables, and hopefully he's going to continue have the time to be able to be a kind of semi-regular on our round table. He's been a great find, and he just turned out to be a great guy. And he laughs at my jokes, doesn't he, John?
Yeah, you guys seem to have like an excellent rapport together. Lee Jackson, he runs like a WordPress podcast as well. That's also, you know, got a lot of people listening to it. And he runs a white label WordPress agency where he builds themes and plugins for larger clients. And he's found a lot of success. He has made like a few panel appearances on our Saturday show, and we interviewed him in episode 145, I believe. He's shared a lot of great tips about building a small agency in the WordPress space. I would definitely go check that out. And you know, yeah, and I love watching you guys, you know, just get along and seeing the Englishness flow. Yeah,
yes.
real.
I think we should go for a break, John.
Yeah, let's go for a break.
Yeah, let's go for our break.
Okay. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about the 2016 year in review. Back after the break. We're coming back from the break, and we're talking the 2016 year in review. And we're talking about mostly about the podcast. Can you take a guess, Jonathan? I looked this up.
Oh dear.
Do you know what episode? Do you know what episode was the first one of 2015 or 2016? I should say.
I haven't got a clue.
I think it looks like it was episode 76.
Wow.
Where you and Bill interviewed Heather Havenwood.
Oh yes, Heather. Yes.
Yep.
Yes, Heather. Well, did you enjoy that interview, John?
Yeah, it was like a long interview. You guys had a lot of people in January. You talked to you had John Overall on the panel in episode 79. You guys had the first of two interviews that we had with Zach Gordon from Treehouse.
Oh, Zach. I really like Zach. What do you feel about those, John?
I liked both of those interviews. I liked the one that you guys did, you and Bill, and the one that we did with him and later on. I think it was episode 103. He's a good guy. I've actually met him at a WordCamp before. And I know him from when I very first started doing web development. I was a moderator on the Treehouse forums for a little while.
I did know that.
Yeah. And you know, so I have a great rapport with Zach. I think he's a good guy. He's one of the true good guys of WordPress.
Very knowledgeable, very straightforward, a man of his words, great educator. I really wish him well with his JavaScript course. It seems to be building. I know he must have put a ton of work in that, not only himself but his team. But I received an email about it yesterday and went to the website and had a quick look around to see what he was up to, and it seems to be going well, doesn't it, John?
No, he's achieving a lot of his success being a WordPress educator, and I think that's really good.
I think that's his passion, isn't it? Really, WordPress and education, really, isn't it?
I think it really is. That's his true calling. That really is his calling.
You know, but very knowledgeable and a very decent guy, basically. You can send me the check next week. That was right.
Also in January, you guys talked to Anka Masu, who talked about the REST API and working with WordPress in the enterprise. We've seen her talk at WordCamp Sacramento just a couple months ago. What do you remember about that interview? Did you enjoy it?
I did. It's I can't say I'm, but she's another very knowledgeable lady. She's been involved in code quite a bit, hasn't she? And she knows a lot of people in the business, doesn't she?
Definitely long career. Definitely a good person. Kind of an extended person of our WordPress posse. In February, we had a couple people who we really do consider like close friends of the show. You had Jason Tucker on, and we had one of our best friends in WordPress, Bridget Willard.
Oh, Bridget.
Yep.
Bridget. Yeah, what can you say about Bridget? Fantastic member of the WordPress community, member of a great WordPress plugin shop. And she laughs at our jokes, doesn't she, John?
Hey, that's good criteria.
You know, that's the main criteria as far as I'm concerned. Do they laugh at my English jokes, John?
Yep, definitely. And we've learned a lot, like from from her about doing social media. We've learned a lot from Jason Tucker, seeing how he runs the water cooler, WP water cooler.
He's just a really decent guy, isn't he, John? Just a really straightforward stand-up guy, isn't he, really?
Absolutely.
If anybody said anything bad about him, I would be really very, very surprised. I haven't heard anything. Have you?
No, nobody's ever said a bad word about Jason.
No, you just sense it, that he's a very solid. There's a lot of people. That's the contradiction of 206. When I was just saying that's been the bit of the contradiction, because a lot of the people we've met through the podcast, Jason, the other people you just mentioned, is just really fantastic people. And then you've had this kind of backsnapping, dagger kind of drawn stuff on Twitter, haven't you? The two don't really meet, you wonder, oh, maybe they're just different people. It doesn't really add, really, does it?
Well, I think the WordPress community is very large, and I think when you're talking about the people who are known, that's maybe like the 1% of the 1%. And it's when you get like that many people in a community, like overall, there's not everybody's going to be best friends. So I don't stress it.
Yeah, that's true.
In March, I know that you and Bill talked to Russell Aaron.
Russell.
Yeah,
Russell. Yeah, he's a cool dude. He ran a really good Las Vegas WordCamp. He's very active. I think he's moved to Reno. I'm not sure, because I know he had family ties in Reno, and then he moved. But I think I'm probably wrong there. He's probably still in Las Vegas, barbecuing. Probably still barbecuing, but no, very knowledgeable guy, isn't he? and he's been a member of the WordPress community for a long time, and he just really very knowledgeable on a very broad range of topics, isn't he?
No, and he's a real character, really humorous, funny guy, makes you laugh, fun to be around. Met him at the 2015 WordCamp in Sacramento. Just a good guy to be around, super skilled with Gravity Forms. And this year, his own maintenance company, Maintain, got acquired by Web Dev Studios. So, congrats there.
I enjoyed that. Yeah, sorry. I
enjoyed
that interview. Yeah, I enjoyed our interview with Chris Hawkins.
Oh yeah, episode 112. We've really become like kind of close buddies this year. He's lives down the way, like in Visalia, but he's been running his own consulting shop, Koji Systems, for almost 20 years. He knows a lot about consulting, knows a lot about software projects. Super smart guy to learn from. He's run his own podcast, Chasing Product. He's going to be launching a new podcast in 2017.
Oh, he's coming back to podcasting, is he?
He's coming back to podcasting.
I think that's a good decision because he was very, very good at it. I have to listen to some of his old episodes from his old podcast. He got some he did some really great interviews on that podcast. But he was on show 112, folks, and go and listen to it. I think we covered some really interesting stuff in that interview. He kind of opened my eyes a little bit.
Yep. Definitely. There's a retro one, I think, that right before I came on as a permanent co-host, it was episode 88. You guys had Rebecca Gill on for a repeat episode. And I just got a lot out of that episode. SEO and just a philosophy of doing it the right way, not trying to game the system, but trying to do SEO the right way.
All I can say is Rebecca is one of the smartest business women in WordPress. Her life story is, I'm not going to overdo it, but her life story, if you find out about, there are other interviews that go over her life story, how she met, and it's quite inspiring, really. She's a very determined lady, very, very methodical, and also she's generally very similar in private to what she's like in public. Very straightforward, very honest, and prepared to have a chat with anybody. She's very, very busy though, so you've got to keep that in mind. She can't just drop things and just have a chat with you, but if she can, she always gave me the impression that she would help somebody.
Yeah, definitely. I always get that impression from her too. I've only met her in person once, but she seemed to be like a very good person. Every time I've interacted with her, like,
well, she managed to just, establish not only a theme shop, but they do client work as well. And also she's got a family and other commitments. So she's got a lot of balls up in the air, isn't she, John?
Well, what I respect about Rebecca and Web Savvy Marketing is they actually do things like give back to the community. They sponsor things in their own local community. They give to, like kids and stuff like that. And they try and help people in their own local community, which is like really, you don't see a lot of businesses doing that. And I think that's like really awesome. So.
And then we've got show 98 with Devin Walker. What can we say about Devin?
Devin is like a really straightforward guy. He's a really good guy. He runs WordImpress, which they make the Give donation plugin, which is their flagship product. They also make like a ton of other products for local businesses where you can embed like different reviews and they do the Map Builder Pro widget. So WordImpress is really taking off. Like they're pushing the Give plugin really hard. Our friend Bridget works for them. But he's like a really smart guy, really sharp. He's really involved in the web community down there in San Diego and the WordPress community everywhere. Runs a great company.
Yeah, he's just a really impressive guy, basically. Yeah, I'm sick of him, really. Not only is he talented, he's good looking. He's got got a very lovely wife. Goes to Europe, doesn't he? But no, to be serious, folks, they're a very hard-working team. They're a machine, aren't they, John? Not only
Oh
on
yeah.
the quality of their plugins, but their marketing. With their team, they're just amazing. But he's another. He's another person. When you meet him, very, very straightforward, very decent guy, isn't he?
He's a good guy. Yes, definitely.
I hope all these people are going to be sending me checks in the new year, John.
I hope so. Yeah, definitely. In episode 100, we had a really great discussion with our friend Morton, who's kind of a semi. He makes appearances on the panel, now and then, but he's a reoccurring panel member, and he was there in episode 50, and we had him back in episode 100. Great discussion. I would not only check out that episode, but he did a guest episode on the Matt Report that I would definitely check out. He really cares about like a philosophy of the web. We're lucky to have him in WordPress. He's like a well-known guy outside of WordPress in the larger web community, and with good reason. Super intelligent guy.
Oh, one of the brightest people I've met, really. He can go deep when he needs to, but also the broadness of the discussion topics that you can cover with him is just quite amazing, and just an amazing educator in the WordPress area, really, isn't he? I don't know how many developers, designers that he's inspired and helped them on their career, but they must be in the thousands or tens of thousands, mustn't they, John?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. He runs in a lot of different like circles, but he definitely is. I feel like a better person for hanging out with him and just talking philosophy of building things on the web, and because he's a student of actual philosophy as well, and I think that's really good.
Then we had as I call him, Captain Bob on 1010, didn't we?
Yep, Bob Dunn made an appearance. Definitely something to check out. He talked about launching his new podcast, which is it's now called the WP e-commerce show. They talk about all things e-commerce.
Right.
We talked about building up his own personal brand. Talking about being a WordPress educator as well. He's a self-made person, good guy.
Yeah, I just enjoyed that conversation in general. Really, I thought it was quite. He took my humour well, didn't he? And because the reason why, because him and his wife, I'm not sure if they've moved, but they lived on an island near Seattle. So I always thought they're on their boat, on their yacht, on their small yacht with the gin bottle. I can see Bob being a very good host on a Sunday sail. Can you kind of then you land and you can just about get off the ship, if you know what I mean.
Sure thing. I think a really slept on episode is 108 with Matt Miller, who runs the School Spirit Vending. He's a self-made person. He was a veteran, and we don't just talk to like WordPress developers. We actually talk to people who have built businesses, and what I really appreciate about him is he had the entrepreneurial spirit, and he built up like a whole company, starting with the very inauspicious thing of buying a gumball machines, which he had put in like different schools and sell them. He bought into the reoccurring passive income thing, and he built himself up very slowly, but now he's doing quite well, and I thought it was a great.
It was a bit different, but I think you could get persistence, self-belief, He was quite honest that, you know, at one stage he didn't have much money in the bank, and he had I think his wife, I would presume his wife was working, but he had he had a family, and things weren't looking that good, and he managed to turn it around, didn't he, John?
He really did, yeah. And I think there's a lot to learn from that. You know, don't give up and believe in yourself, and, you know, hold on to that vision, but, you know, take tangible steps to you know, build a business. And he did that by, you know, investing in himself, building assets.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. I really liked how we're getting to the end of this. We do, maybe I'll do one and then you do one, and
Yeah.
then we'll wrap it up, John. I quite like episode 124 where Matt Inlock of Title Pixel came on. Very knowledgeable guy, isn't he? Very
Yeah,
so young, John. So young, John. But
he's older than he looks.
very.
Yeah.
But another very straightforward, very knowledgeable about running an agency, running a business in general, isn't he?
Definitely. You know, our friend Matt Inglot, Tilted Pixel, like, he talked all about, you know, not just building his podcast freelance transformation, but, you know, the missteps that he made in, like, building an agency. And I think what a lot of people do, he talked a lot about, like, what people think you need to do to, like, build an agency, and how it got him in trouble. And then, you know, how he course corrected and built a micro agency that, you know, serves his needs, makes him happy. He's, you know, making money, but he's not, you know, destroying himself in the process. So a lot of, like, super lot of information in that episode, which is 124. Do you recommend that if you're, you know, if you're freelancing, consulting, or running an agency? Yeah, definitely go check that one out. I would say the ones we got left here. Let's take a look. Hold on here. You know, the one with Kai Davis, and I think that was 130. Which one was that? 131? No, it was 133. Kai Davis gave us a lot of information on, you know, doing digital outreach, consulting, you know, building a podcast, building your name. There's a lot of practical advice there. He's he co-runs Brennan Dunn's Double Your Freelancing classes now, and he also has a podcast called Make Money Online, which he co-hosts with another consultant, Nick DeSabato, which I think is, like, one of the slept on podcasts that's out there. He gave us a lot of practical advice, you know, a lot of practical advice that we're actually taking. You know, so if you're a person that's looking to get into podcasting, or even not just that, but, you know, somebody who's in the space doing what we do, you know, doing digital marketing, doing web design, web development, doing some sort of consulting, he gave us a lot of tips on how to broaden your reach.
Yeah, super bright guy, quite intense, but in a friendly way. But super bright and quite knowledgeable. And he actually bought I bought his actual PDF, folks, and not many I do buy, but I actually bought his, and it's actually well written, and it's got a lot of good advice. Like anything, you've got to put it into practice, which can, you know, you can find 1,000 excuses why you don't do it. That's half the battle, isn't it, John? It's actually doing something.
Yeah, it really, really is. You can get caught up in the cycle of just, like, reading stuff but never implementing any of it. So yeah.
So I think we're going to wrap it up now, John. Obviously, the key thing of 206 when it comes to WP-Tonic, folks, is John Locke coming on board. You know, it's been a pleasure working with John in 2016. Also, Bill, my previous host, contributed a lot. I learned a lot from Bill around podcasting. I hope Bill comes back into podcasting. He had to take a slight break for family and business reasons. But I think in 2017, he's going to go back into podcasting to some extent. That's what he tells me, because he's very good at it, actually, John. But yeah, you agreeing? I think we've moved the show on. Hopefully, you, the audience, think so. I've known John for about 2 to 3 years now, and he's just a great guy, folks. Always kept his word, rock solid guy. Just thank you for coming on the show, and I think it's been a bit.
No problem. My pleasure.
It's been a bit of a blast, hasn't it?
It definitely has. You know, and definitely you can check this out on the WP-Tonic website. If you go to the sponsorship page, you can definitely see, you know, some of the recent improvement. I mean, for real, a lot of the numbers are moving in the positive direction. So definitely, I
just think in general we've covered a lot of interesting stuff in 2016, haven't we? It's really difficult, folks, because you want to keep it slightly around WordPress, but on the other hand, we just don't want to cover WordPress, if you understand what we mean, folks, because there's a lot of running a site, getting traffic to it. You know, I just use it as an education resource for myself, folks.
I think that's one of the biggest benefits of actually having this podcast, you know, and publishing twice a week, is getting to talk to so many smart people, you know, whether it's Curtis McHale or Kerry Ford or the guys from Beaver Builder. Everybody we talk to, we learn something from.
Yeah, I just use it as education, free education training, folks, because, you know, normally you have to spend a lot of money with these people, but you get them on the show for 45 minutes plus, and you can pick their brain, basically. There's always, you know, not bad, is it, John? So,
no, it's great.
So we're coming back in 2017, hopefully continue the round table. We've got some...
Oh yeah, definitely. And our regular people on the roundtable, we got Brian Lee Jackson, we got Jackie D'Elia, Sally Getch, Morton is there sometimes, Lee Jackson is there sometimes. Want to thank the other people that were on the panel during this year, David Lietta. You know, I know we had Bridget Willard on a couple times. Matt Inglot was on once. Nick Mager, Adam Fout, you know, made guest appearances. You know, anybody else that I'm leaving out, definitely. We had a great panel in 2016, and that's going to continue in 2017.
And we got some, Brian, remember Brian Jackson as well. We've got 2 Jackson.
Yeah.
That's a little bit confusing, isn't it?
Yep.
But we got some good guests in January coming on the show. I'm sure, hopefully, you're going to enjoy the interviews. And
yeah, oh, I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm not trying to cut you off.
There's many people that want to cut me off, John.
Jonathan, I just want to say this too. You have actually booked a lot of people. Like, we've got January and February, like, looking pretty booked. And you actually did an excellent job. I think people are going to be really happy with the lineup that we have coming. That's going to start on next Wednesday's show. In 154, we're going to have Nate Wright from Theme of the Crop. He makes WordPress themes for restaurants. Yeah, definitely.
He's been on the Matt Report, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I think I've just seen him on Carrie Dill's podcast as well. So definitely check that out.
Oh, and Carrie's coming back, isn't she?
Carrie is coming back.
The queen of Genesis.
Yeah, and we've got some more surprises in store for you. We've actually got some, you know, some good guests that we're pretty excited to have on. So
we like to wish you a happy new year. Don't get too sozzled. Don't do anything we wouldn't do, which isn't saying much, but there we go. We've got new artwork for the show. Hopefully, I thought we both felt it was very appropriate artwork, wasn't it, John?
Yeah, it fits. It just fits, and you'll see what we mean. Definitely. The last thing is, like, if you are getting value from this podcast, be sure to leave us a detailed review on iTunes. If you don't have iTunes, you can also find us on Stitcher, SoundCloud, all the usual places. Definitely, you know, but, you know, give us a thumbs up, give us a review, and maybe we'll read it on air. You know,
Yeah,
so
it's great to hear from the audience because sometimes the numbers are growing quite substantially, but it's great to get emails or leave comments on the episodes. You can do that, folks. And we try and
yep.
leave more extensive notes in TOE 16, which we have done, and bonus video content as well. The conversation goes on normally after. We're not going to do that now because you're probably sick of, had enough of us two blabbing on. We hope to increase the opportunity of you contributing to the shows and interacting with us a bit more in 2017. We're looking at different options, and hopefully I will get off my backside and get those organised. So I think we're going to round this up now, John. So we'd just like once again, we'd like to wish both you and your family a great New Year's Eve, and be safe. And we'll see you in the new year.
We'll see you in 2017. Be well, people. Peace out.